What's going on, people, and welcome back. So I've shown you how to mix a drill vocal in Fruity Loops. I've shown you how to mix a drill vocal in Logic. But today we're back in Pro Tools with a setup that I use. This is a very, very recent mix. This track came out like last month, so it's quite recent. I just want to show you the vocal chain that I'm using at the moment. Now, this isn't a template because this changes all the time. I am going to drop a template video in the next coming weeks. I'm literally going to record it next. But this is just to show you the source that I'm using at the moment, what I'm using on my vocals, and how just a handful of plugins that I'm really enjoying using at the moment. Of course, it always changes, but we'll get into that in a minute. So this is the track here. It's called Phase 3 by Prince Loso.
Yo, I just shot on my ex like, why in the hell did I do that shit? One call got a nigga all stupid sick. That's why we can't talk till I'm stupid rich. Bad B in the clutch and I chew my ting. No teeth, I want feel those lips. Wow, no teeth, I want feel those lips. Jazzo pulled up in a bust down whip. That's family tie, she a bust down chick. Real niggas round me, don't roll, don't slip, don't fall, don't chip, don't flip, don't flip. Free slim to the free, my G. How you out on the...
Alright, so I recorded this vocal. Me and Loso worked on this in the studio. So when I record vocals, I use the VMS, the Virtual Mic System by Ssl. And what that is just an ultra linear microphone that you record on, and then you use the plugin to give it characteristics of a bunch of different mics. So I use this mic here, which is modeled after, I'll show you what it's modeled after. Let's see, bam. Modeled after this microphone here. So this is a 15 grand microphone. And we, you know, I think I paid like £700 for this microphone. I don't know how close it is, but it's meant to be pretty good. You can do your own research. So I use the FG800, which is modeled after that mic, going into a Neve 73 preamp, going into basically an SSL desk. So in my mind, I kind of treat it like I've recorded it on the hardware. So mic going into preamp, going into desk, and then going into my Console 1 plugin, which is an Ssl EQ and the Tube Tech compressor. So let's hear what that's doing. So let me mute everything else other than those two plugins. Bypass them, sorry.
Yo, I just shot on my ex like, why in the hell did I do that shit? One call got a nigga all stupid sick. That's why we can't talk till I'm stupid rich. Bad B in the clutch and I chew my ting. No teeth, I want...
So we're doing like 6 to 10 decibels of gain reduction. We're cutting at 200 hertz. 200 hertz. Just over 2 decibels reduction on the EQ. And like I said, this is just in my head the recording process. So I try and get it sounding good just using those two plugins, the VMR and this Soft-Tube plugin, to get it sound as good as possible. So when it comes to mixing, I'm just making it sound better. Do you know what I'm saying? As you can hear, it sounds pretty good with just the compressor and the EQ on there and the microphone. So once you can get your vocals sounding great in the recording session, get it sounding great just using a handful of plugins. When you come back the next day with fresh ears, it's all about just building on that template, that structure that you've put down for yourselves. So yeah, VMR into the Console 1 using a Tube Tech compressor. Then we've got the R compressor by Waves. We've got a 5 attack, 50 release, but we're only doing 1.7 ratio. I spoke about this in our UK Wave video. We're not trying to compress it too much. We're just trying to even out those levels.
Yo, I just shot on my ex like, why in the hell did I do that shit? One call got...
And we're doing -3 decibels on that. Then we have another SSL EQ. Now, I like to use SSL EQs at the beginning of the chain somewhere, because I like to EQ first just using my ears and not being fooled by any kind of graphic or anything like that. I just want to be able to hear a frequency that's really bothering me, find it just using these knobs and cut it. So we're doing a -2 decibels reduction at 961 hertz. And that's all I'm doing with that. But I would definitely encourage people watching this, if you're struggling with EQing, try just using EQs with no graphic or anything like that for a couple of months. Just practice, only using your ears, and then trust me, it will come. So we're using that by, I think it's Brainworks by Plugin Alliance. Then we've got this EQ here, the Fabfilter Pro Q2, doing quite a lot of cleanup here in the high areas. I think this is quite extreme. You know, we're only doing like -2, -1 decibels here and there, but there must have been some sort of harsh frequencies that I was having problems with, that I was really trying to smooth out, because I wanted it to sound great on phone speakers, and sometimes when it's too harsh, phone speakers just really show you up. If your vocals are too hissy, got too much going on in those higher frequencies, you really get exposed when playing it on phone speakers. So yeah, I've done a bit of cleanup there on the higher frequencies on the Pro Q2. And then we have a DSR, 400 hertz.
Yo, I just shot on my ex like, why in the hell did I do that shit? One call got a new.
Sorry, 4K. That's 4,000, not 400. Yeah, standard stuff. DSR, you know how it goes. Got a multi-band compressor.
Yo, I just shot on my ex like, why in the hell did I do that shit? One call got a nigga all stupid sick. That's why we can't talk to no stupid rich bad bitch.
I use multi-band compressors to catch plosives. I also use it just to catch. I'm just trying to catch a little bit more of those high ends that were giving me problems, and you can see as well there's a bit of low mid going on, but mostly I'm just trying to catch the plosives. I'm not trying to over compress it with this multi-band compressor. That's not what we're trying to do. Then we have the VMR, again, the virtual mix rack, and we're using a distressor.
Yo, I just shot on my ex like, why in the hell did I do that shit? One call got a nigga all stupid sick. That's why we can't talk to no stupid rich bad B in the cut trying to chew my ting. No teeth, I want feel those lips. Wow, no teeth, I want feel those lips.
And that compressor is just making the vocal pop now. It's just making the vocal really stand out. It also has a nice, it's got kind of like a nice color it adds to the vocals as well. You saw me using distortion tools and stuff like that in one of my previous videos. This compressor here it's a less clean compressor. So when you're trying to get that really over compressed sound with a lot of low end, but we don't want it to sound too clean, this is the compressor for you. The R compressor up there is much more cleaner if you want a more clean sound, but you know, we're doing drill here. We want it to sound a bit dirty and gritty. With them boosting a little bit of 2K, obviously we did a lot of cutting in those EQs, so I probably just wanted to put a little bit more back in. Probably might have sounded a little bit too dead. And 800 hertz as well, but look, it's just, you know, 0.9. I think I even just turned that up by accident. No, I didn't. And yeah, that's everything with the VMR. We've got another DSR here, doing 10K this time.
Yo, I just shot on my ex like, why in the hell did I do that shit? One call got a nigga all stupid sick. That's why we can't talk to no stupid rich bad B in the cut trying to.
And then we have a C6. Like, really, man, these frequencies here must have just been giving me problems because I've been going ham on them. But you know me anyway, with drill, I like my vocals to sound dark. I don't like them to sound too bright. Also, you know, when I listen to the instrumental to me just sounds like some Batman music. Sounds like I've just stepped into Gotham. So I wanted my vocals to match that sound. You know, I didn't want the vocals to be jumping out too much. I wanted them to pop, which is why we're using the compressors we use, but I didn't want them to be just standing out and being bright and really in your face. I wanted it to be more like just stern, you get me? Batman-esque. And that's everything. We've got some parallel compression going on as well, just to bring that body back in. We've done a few cuts in the low ends here and there. We're using the Blueface 116. So if you're struggling with making your vocal, it's like we didn't want my vocals to sound too dull. Like, we did want them to sound dark, but I didn't want to use EQ to make them, you know, brighter. I didn't want them to be bright, but these kind of compressors here, they have very bright characteristics. So when you throw one of these on as a parallel compressor, it does help you. If you're, you know, struggling, your vocals are just sounding a bit meh, use a compressor that has good characteristics in the higher frequencies. And that sounds like a lot, sounds like I'm chatting the most, but trust me, rather than just EQ your stuff all the time, just try different things. Try saturation, try bright reverbs. I'm even using a bright reverb on this track, what we'll get into. So if your vocals are sounding too dull as a result of EQing, bring that back up with a parallel compressor. And the same goes with low end as well. If it's sounding too tinny and the low end ain't there, use a compressor for parallel compression with lower characteristics, like the Black 116 or the Distressor. Distressor is another good one for parallel compression. And yeah, and then those two vocal buses are going into an all vocal bus with a soothe on there. Simple stuff. And that is the complete vocal chain. There's nothing crazy going on there. Just a handful of plugins that I really, really like. We have the EQ that I mentioned, the reverb that I mentioned, which is here and here. That's all on the same track. So you can copy this H delay there, going into reverb, going into EQ, going into reverb, going into the digital, going into another EQ. All right, so let's talk ad-libs now. Our ad-libs are on this track here, so let's mute these vocals. So you can hear that it's not like phone effects. I don't like using phone effects on ad-libs. I only do it if I've been specifically asked, but I'd much rather do something like this. So as you can see, I've got an EQ on there and I've just cut loads out. I've done -18. It's not quite phone effect. Like phone effect would look something like this, and then boosting the highs like that. That's what a phone effect would look like, but we're not doing that. Oh shit. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we're doing a big cut at 180 hertz, -18 decibels, and then we're just compressing the hell out of it. So on the R compressor here, I've got a 7.2 ratio, 7:2 ratio. So we're doing all that compression, and we're also doing an auto pan. It's just pinging back and forward. And then we've got the reverb here. And then of course, as you can hear, we've got delay. Now what these effects are all doing is just making those ad-libs sound, they're loud. You can hear them, but they sound quiet because they're so compressed and there's so much reverb on there. It's making those ad-libs sound like they're further back in the mix. Now, someone asked me about this on Instagram. If you're trying to get your main vocal to stand out more, put all the effects on the main vocal, and that tricks our ears and our brain into thinking that those ad-libs are further back in the mix, and that then causes us to feel like the main vocal is pushed forward. It's all psychological. And it sounds like gibberish, but trust me, once you get the hang of these kind of things and you start to learn about these kind of things, that's what's going to take your mixes to the next level. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't want to put all the effects on your main vocal. You can. It depends what sound you're going for. But if you're trying to get that lead vocal to really be up there and in your face or whatever, then the trick is to put all of those effects and stuff like that on the ad-libs to make them sound like they're pushed back. That's another reason why I don't like the phone effect on ad-libs, because although it works well in putting the ad-libs on a different frequency to the main vocals, I just feel like they're just too bright. I don't know. I'm over the phone effect on ad-libs now, personally, but I know a lot of people still like it, so it's a personal preference. Then on the beat here, this is another cool little trick. When you don't have beat stems and you're listening to this beat and the bass just isn't hitting right. It's just not hitting me like I want it to hit. So I slapped the R bass on there, and let's listen to what that does. Let's fast forward it a bit. Gang. So you can hear like the higher frequency, the higher part of that 808. Not so much the sub, but that the fuzz of it, the grit, the growl of that 808. That R bass just makes it pop out much more. And you can put it on your 808 separately. If you've got beat stems, then this is a great plugin. But in this case, we just had that whatever you'd call it, just the bounce, the WAV file. Not even a WAV file. I think this might even be MP3, to be honest. Look, this is a straight YouTube rip. I'm sure Loso purchased the beat after, but you know, these artists don't like paying for the WAVs. I don't know why, but that's on them, you get me. But yeah, R bass, just make that bass sound much more like gritty, and it also, that makes it sound much more audible on laptop speakers, phone speakers, and things like that, and even your little Apple earbuds or whatever phone you got. You can see that I tried to do it with an EQ. Might as well just delete that. That was just left over. I opened up the EQ, it didn't work out, so then I got the R bass on there. So guys, that is all for today. Like I said, this isn't my template video. My template video is coming up after this. I'm going to literally record it today and drop that in the next coming weeks. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. Drop me a like if you've enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you know, tell me if I'm wrong or some shit. But yeah, man, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Peace.